A very good evening to all the dear students of SY BBA Semester 3 and welcome to the lecture of Entrepreneurship Development. I, Professor Shaurisha, warmly welcome all of you. Dear students, in the last lecture, we completed the part of innovation and entrepreneurship in a social context, right? Today, we'll be starting with the next part of our syllabus, that is financing and risk, which is involved in your social entrepreneurship, right? So far in this unit, students, you must be aware that we have completed your introduction to social entrepreneurship, characteristics and role of a social entrepreneur, innovation and entrepreneurship in social context, right? So far we have completed half of the part of the chapter. Today we'll be doing further, that is financing and risk, right? Now students, as you all know, in any enterprise, finance is known as the lifeblood for the business, right? Without finance you cannot survive even, right? You must have studied in financial management also that finance is the, again we can say, the lifeblood of the business. Fine. So how it is necessary even for a social entrepreneurship, right? If it is a normal business, then it is easy much compared to your social enterprise to gain the gain, we can say, the financial resources, the sources of funds from various methods, and to utilize that. Fine. Now when we are involved into a social enterprise, again it is a difficult thing for a social entrepreneur to manage the funds, to receive the funds once again and again turning back into the again we can say business. Fine. So we'll see various sources of funds for your financing a social enterprise, what are the difficulties which they are facing, and later on part of the lecture will be related to the risk which are involved in your social enterprise. Fine. So we'll be beginning, students, with the financing a social enterprise, right? Now definitely, as I told you, many social enterprises regards the lack of financing opportunities as a significant barrier to startup and growth, right? In the next lecture we'll be studying the startup and the growth strategies of a social enterprise and business strategies. Fine. So there we will see that in the initial level only, as we already know that a social entrepreneur or a social enterprise is a completely new enterprise or a new innovative idea taking place for removing the social problems, right? So in order to do that, majority of the investors which are readily available to invest in some of the recent businesses are not ready to invest in a social enterprise, right? So from the very first stage of your startup, again, and for the later on stage of your growth, the business persons of social enterprise are not able to fetch money or not able to fetch the capital. Social enterprises must not only cover the ordinary expenditure, right? Now you all must be aware, students, that there are two types of expenditure. One which you need at the time of your startup of your business, right? So startup capital, it is known as, or also known as seed capital, right? So that you know. Again, after that you require working capital, that is for your day-to-day activities, daily routine expenses, and the recurring expenses like your wages, administration expenses, marketing, rent, office equipments, and so on and so forth, right? So that is not only needed. Apart from that, you also require certain social impact cost money, right? Now what do you mean by social impact cost, students? This cost include the cost associated with the lower productivity rates, demonstrating both social and financial impact, liaising with public employment services, conversations and care with disadvantaged employees, and building social capacity, right? Now as you are into a social enterprise, students, right, your employees will be not so much productive, right? It is possible that you are working with some kind of unskilled workers, some kind of unemployed people, those people who are again socially disadvantaged. It is not necessary that you will appoint the skilled force only, right? So when you are dealing with such force of population, right, there are productivity issues also. The lower productivity rate also increases the time for the production or time for the services which you are providing, so that also leads to increase in cost, right? So that is one of the social impact costs. Apart from that, you need to again demonstrate both the social and financial impact, right? So what is the social and financial impact of your particular enterprise that you need to show? Again, licensing with public employment services, right? So what you need to do is you need to again and again continuously ask the public employment services. For example, in every city, in every state, right, there is a unemployment board. So people register their names in that unemployment board, and again employment is provided to them, right? So you need to again work with such kind of government machinery, and that government machinery also requires certain costs, and again you need to again deal with such kind of officers, right? So for that also cost is required. Again, the care of disadvantaged employees and building social capacity, that also requires cost. So apart from that, apart from your daily expenses which you are having for your working capital, apart from your seed capital, you require such kind of social impact cost also, right? So that is again a very much difficult process for a social enterprise to deal with the financial resources. Fine, I hope it is clear. Now the demand for the capital seems particularly high in the startup and the growth phase of business cycle, right? Take it any business, not only social enterprise. In any business we have seen that startup stage requires many requirements of fund, right? You need to do each and everything right from the scratch. So in the initial business cycle, we have also seen the enterprise cycle, right? It starts from your startup stage and ends on your decline and the maturity. Fine. So in the startup stage itself, the capital which you require is very much high. Again, in startup phase, many social entrepreneurs choose to invest their own savings or receive favorable, often interest-free loans from the family and the friends. Right now, again in the later part, we will be studying various sources of funds from which a social entrepreneur can get the money out of it. Right. So, in the initial startup phase, whenever you or suppose any person are having a dream or vision in order to create a mission, right, in order to reduce a social problem, so they are having certain kind of vision and a plan for that. So the very first thing is, what I'll get money, I'll not definitely get money from banks or any financial institutions, right? So the first and the foremost fund I am having is, I will utilize my savings which I have earned, right? Again, or not, then my family members or my friends can give me the loan. Fine. So the very first stage to get the finance in startup is to get it from either your savings or from your family members or from friends, right? These are generally interest free loans, are, or we can say, a very less interest loan, right? Generally they are interest free because the relatives gives you the money for starting up the business. However, this is not an option for all social entrepreneurs, right? Definitely, it is not possible for each and every social entrepreneur that they have their own savings in a bulk, right? Again, they have such kind of relatives, friends who give them interest-free loans, right? So, who might not have rich friends. Many a times it takes place that social entrepreneurs are generally people who are coming from your backward areas or who are coming from your poor families, but they are having a mission, a vision to start with, right? So, in order to that deal with that problem, banks and social institutions who provide you finance are the main source of funds for this kind of people, right? So banks and other private investors also tend to be reluctant to provide high risk capital to social enterprises, right? Again, they are resisting to provide finance to such kind of social enterprises because the very first thing, there are n number of reasons students will be studying. The very first among that is, there is no security, right? Because you are starting a complete new business. So first thing is, you are not having any kind of collateral security to be put up. The second is, there is no guarantee for the success of your enterprise, right? So again, if it is a normal routine enterprise, you can calculate the profit also. When you are into the social enterprise, your success depends upon the achievement of the mission which you are having, right? So for that also, banks and other institutions are also resisting to give you the money, where success is generally measured in social and not monetary terms, right? As I told you, you cannot calculate the amount of profit or revenue out of it because it is a social mission. Now again, students, social enterprises rely either on the grant capital in form, right? This we will be studying it in detail. In grant in form of, either it can be a grant from government, right? What do you mean by grant, students? It is the financial aid, it is a financial help, or we can say subsidy the government is providing, or any other institutions which are providing for a social enterprise, right? In exchange, so that they can achieve their objective, right? either it can be donations or the project funding, right? Some enterprises or some private investors or angel investors also provide you the private funding, right? That is related to your project particularly. Once your project is achieved, their funds will be clear, right? So suppose you are having a mission of reducing the illiteracy among poor children, so for that particular project they will provide you the fund that is known as project funding. Or commercial financing products such as bank loan, right? The last resort of any social enterprise is the bank loan, right? Definitely, because once you give the guarantee, bank is ready to provide you the loan. A significant number of social enterprise leaders report that relying too much on grant funding can be a risky strategy, right? Definitely, because the grant, there are n number of criteria to be fulfilled in order to get a grant from the government, right? Now, this grant also has certain advantages, certain limitations. One of them is the grant should be used particularly for the purpose for which it is issued to the social entrepreneur, right? The second thing is government will control over your activities where you are using your grant. So in order to change your again mission, or in order to grow your business or social enterprise, the grant cannot be used, fine, particularly if you are deviating from your mission. So such kind of individual grants are also time limited and are not reliable in long term. It is particularly given for certain years only, right? Maybe for 2 years, maybe for 5 years, maybe for 7 years, so they cannot rely upon it for a longer period of time. Grant funding can also lower the incentive for the leaders and employees to professionalize the business aspects, right? Thus leading to unhealthy business behavior. Definitely, as I told you, there are certain restrictions which government puts up or any financial institutions puts up who provides you the grant, right? So such kind of funding can lower the incentive for the leaders, right? Because the fund which you have got, you cannot utilize it as and when your mind says, right? So that is the main reason that leads to unhealthy business behavior. Now again, students, they are not large enough to have a departmental structure and struggle to achieve a state of investment readiness that would make them credible to the mainstream lender, right? Definitely, as I told you, suppose you are having any kind of startup or innovative idea and it is not related to society, there are chances that you may get many investors, or there are chances that you may get some angel investors also, or banks are ready to finance it, right? But again, as such, in social enterprise there are only limited persons, limited entrepreneur having a vision, so that the departmental structure is not so much high, right? And again, investment readiness is not found in the particular lenders, investors, creditors, or any kind of institutional financiers, right? So that also leads to the struggle in finance. Again, they also lack collateral against which most small business loans are secure, right? As I told you, collateral security or any kind of property to be mortgaged, right? As such, you are starting the enterprise itself, and again, there is no chance in future for the guarantee of your profits also or revenues also, right? So that leads to particularly the loans are given against the collateral security only. So if it is not there, then finance will not come, right? Again, they have to struggle it for again getting the contracts from public sector agencies also, right? Now when you are into the similar business, similar economy, right, there are chances that there may be clashes with the public sector enterprise also, government companies also, and private companies also, right? So in order to survive and compete with such kind of private and public sector agencies in any kind of contracts, in any kind of work, we can say, then it is very difficult for the same, right? Just take for example of your paper bags and plastic bags, right? There are certain social enterprises who have started making paper bags, right? One of them is in south of India, right? So what they are doing is that particular firm is manufacturing the bags out of newspapers. They have employed again the women which were very poor, so they are manufacturing the bags in lakhs of quantity and they are selling it to the persons who are again using plastic bags in their stores, right? So they have started covering majority of the market share, but the only issue is regarding the funding, right? So they have to compete with the prices, the quality which the private companies are providing in a plastic bag, right? So if I am getting a plastic bag more durable, more cheaper than paper bag, then why should I buy a particular paper bag? So social enterprises again have to prove themselves. They need to struggle again and again in order to prove the quality, the price, matching with the private sector companies also, right? So these are the various financial problems which a social enterprise faces. Capacity building is also needed for both management and contract acquisition, especially because many founders start not as entrepreneurs but as the people wishing to achieve some level of social change, right? We have seen that entrepreneur is a person having n number of skills, right? It is necessary for a business to have an entrepreneur so that a long term growth is achieved. But many of the social enterprises, as I told you, right, you can see majority of the examples also for a social enterprise, they are not born entrepreneurs, right? Again, they are the common people willing to change the society with the help of a mission, right? So again, they are not that much particularly skillful or having such kind of capability to match with the private companies having specialized people, right? So capacity building is also needed. They need to build their capacity. They need to create a departmental structure for getting the entire contracts from various markets and to arrange for the finance, right? So that is also one of the problem related to finance. Now students, so far we have completed the various financial problems or financial requirements for which the enterprises need the money, right? Now we will be seeing the main three categories of financing for social enterprise, right? There are two classifications. This is a broader classification in which we can divide the finance which a social enterprise gets from the various three sources, right? Then we'll be seeing the other part of the sources from which they can get. Amongst that students, as you can see, the very first is the grant financing, right? As I told you, the grant financing, it is the finance typically provided by either foundations, right? Foundations means such kind of trusts are there, such kind of foundations are there. They provide funds to various kinds of social enterprises, right? Philanthropic organizations or public sector programs in the form of, for example, they give donation or project funding. Only social outcomes are expected in return, right? So what do you mean by grant? Grant is one of the thing which is given one sided, right, from one party to another party. Again, in return, what do they expect is they expect only social outcomes as the main return. Fine. So they are not expecting any financial return out of it. So grant financing is the first and the foremost source on which majority of the social enterprises or social organizations are dependent. Next is commercial financing, right? As you all know, commercial financing is the capital which is provided either by loans, right? Banks gives the loan, financial institutions gives the loan, then either in shares in exchange for financial return in form of either interest, right? You give your shares of your social enterprise particularly to such kind of institution. In return, they are giving you the money, the finance, and again the interest is to be paid, right? Or you are giving partial ownership of the company for combination of the both. Fine. So I suppose it is clear. So for commercial financing, either students, you are taking the loans, you are giving the shares in exchange of financial return, or in form of interest or debt, or you are giving the partial ownership to both of them. I hope it is clear. That is your commercial financing. And the next is your social financing, right? What do you mean by social financing, students? Social financing is the combination of above both, right? It includes the elements of grant financing also, and it includes the elements of your commercial financing also, right? It is provided with the expectation of a combination of both financial and social return, right? So if I am providing a social finance, right, I expect that there should be a change in the society also, and I should retain again get some of the return from my investments also. So that is social financing, right? So this is your students three main broad classification of the finance which you get. Now we'll be studying next is the types of financing which a social enterprise is having. Broadly dividing your social enterprise finance, students, into two parts. The first is your internal financing, the finance which they get particularly from their internal structure, and the second is your external financing, right? That is the types of financing which we get from external environment, that is from your investors, right? So both this are known as sources of finance. Source is from your internal, and the next is your external financing, that is you get from your external environment, right? Just have a glance over all the 5 options which are given in your red color. So if you see students, in your internal financing, there are mainly two, that is your target groups and the beneficiary, and the second is your public bodies, right? Now, if we see the internal financing, the very first is your target groups and beneficiaries, right? You are getting revenues, you are getting sponsorship, you are getting membership fees and other income from them, right? Again, take for example, many a times you must have seen in your practical life also, right? Various NGOs or various organizations of your social organization organize or run for various causes, right? This is a very common life layman example. Run for various causes is there, right? So what run for various causes, if such kind of enterprises are organizing, they are targeting a particular group. Say for example, run for the health of the people, right? For a particular disease we can say, or for a particular cause, right? So that targeted people will give money as an entrance fees for that, so you are getting revenue out of it, right? There may be n number of sponsorships. Say for example, run for the safety of various kinds of diseases that are very severe, right? So what we are going to do is we will be creating such kind of revenues from entrance fees. Second thing is we will be getting sponsorship from various organizations also, from various business also, and from various franchises, right? So you are receiving money from your interest groups and beneficiaries. Third is membership fees, right? Many members will be joining our organization, so you will be receiving membership fees. Other income can be in form of your, again we can say, sponsorship, donations and so on and so forth, right? Next is your public bodies, right? You will be getting the compensation for the services which you are providing, right? So there may be various public bodies. Either you are providing your services to the government, either you are providing your services to any customer, either you are providing your services to any companies, right? So from your routine operational activities of business, you will be getting the compensation, that is the money which you are having, right? So that is the main difference between them. So this both are your students' internal financing, that is the income which you are getting, right, from your routine activities. Now here in your external financing, as you can see, there are three main parts, right? Amongst that, investors, right? Simple logic is there are three type of investors. Either it can be in any form of business, right? Investor who are giving you the money and expecting no financial return. Second is your investors who are giving you the money but they are expecting a lesser return than what is going on in market right now, right? And the third is investors who expect the same financial return which they are getting in market, fine. So we'll see again, impact only, investors expecting no financial return, so donations and grants, right? Those are the investors we saw just now only. Government is there, right? So what government is doing, they are providing you the grants, they are providing you the donations, right? They are not expecting anything in financial return, they are just involved in impact on the society only, right? Suppose you give the donation today, you do not ask for the interest on that donation, right? You are simply giving it so that any benefit can take place, fine. Again, second is your the investors who are willing to get the money or return in their investments, but their main aim is the impact on the society should have first, and then they should get a minimum return, right? Again, equity, debt, mezzanine capital, hybrid financing models and so on and so forth, right? Not going much in detail about all this concept, but you can remember the names. Next is investors who are pure professionals, right? They are the financial first investors. Equity, debt, mezzanine capital, so all those things, right? They are the main persons who need money out of any business. So they are also known as angel investors, right? They invest in your business in order to cover and get a rate of return which is equal to market capital. I hope it is clear. So all of you must be again aware, finance we can divide it in internal financing and external financing. Amongst internal financing, you divide it in target groups and beneficiaries. Among your, again we can say, that is public bodies. External financing, there are three type of investors you can see. In that three type of investors, one is expecting no financial return, second is again investing and getting rate below the market rate and having impact first, and the third is only financial return. I hope it is clear to each and every student, fine. So we have completed, students, the financing of a social enterprise, fine. Okay, the next part you need to study is the risk involved in a social enterprise, students, right? Now there are again various risks which are involved in a social enterprise also that you need to study, right? So broadly we will divide this risk in four main heads and then we'll be studying it, right? Risk again is such an activity which is uncertain, right? You need to manage and plan the risk, and you need to either reduce the risk, either you need to transfer the risk, or you need to avoid the risk, or you need to accept the risk and work accordingly, right? So we'll see which risk a social enterprise is having. The very first amongst the risk in social enterprise is definitely financial risk, right? As we have studied, so many problems are there in achieving the finance in a social enterprise, right? How they achieve it. Amongst that, the very first is risk of losing the money, right? Definitely, as I told you, they are not the particular born entrepreneurs who are starting the business, right? So whatever stakeholders, either you are investing your money, either you are investing your relatives money, friends money, or either you are taking a grant or money from any other investor, right? There is always a risk of losing the money in a social enterprise, right? Because it is not sure whether the problem which you have selected in order to solve it is properly executed or not, and you will get it or not, right? So that is always a risk of losing money. The second is startup cost is higher than willing to commit, right? Definitely, when you start the business entirely, you require n number of expenses and you require n number of funds to do certain things, right? You need to again purchase an office, you need to again purchase the equipments, you need to appoint the people, you need to again do the publicity, you need to again do the advertisement. So for all that things, startup costs is always higher than what is committed in the business plan by the entrepreneur. So that is also one of the risk which is going on. Traditional non-profit funders may decrease the support, right? As we saw, there are three type of investors. The first, they are believing only in impact, right? So such kind of people are known as traditional non-profit funders, right? So in order, so that there is a chance in today's time period that they may decrease their support. Initially they may give you the support, they may give you the fund, but by the time the social enterprises work, there are chances that such kind of traditional non-profit funders may decrease their support. So that is always a risk which is going on social enterprise. Opportunity cost, earned income versus fundraising, right? You always need to do the opportunity cost. What do you mean by opportunity cost, students? It is the best next benefit which is foregone, right? The plan which is foregone. So whenever opportunity cost is involved, you need to only choose one out of the two best alternatives, right? So it is always a cost for the entrepreneurs, that whether they should use their own income or whether they should do fundraising, because when they do fundraising, they need to pay the interest on it, they need to pay return on it, right? So always the opportunity cost risk is also involved. Fraud is the most common crime again perpetrated against non-profit organization, right? The only thing which is a black spot on social enterprises is people do not believe you what you are saying, right? There is always a chance that people may think that it is a fraud organization or it is a fraud enterprise, right? So hardly people think to invest in it, hardly people think to give a donation in a particular organization unless and until it is on a very large scale and it is again created for a very good purpose and you are able to convince the people, right? So there is always a risk of fraud which is going on for any social enterprise. So these are your students the types of financial risk. I hope you all are clear. Moving on to the operational risk, right? Risk are also involved in the operations of the business of a social enterprise, right? Continuously they are operating in the field, in the market. So venture may divert management and staff attention, right? There are chances that due to some of the unavoidable circumstances or due to some of the losses or wrong decisions, right, the business may try to divert the management and the staff's attention. So again, it is a kind of operational risk. Whatever correct operations are going on, they will not inform you, right? Again, increased organizational complexity. Once the organization becomes large, right, it becomes, because it is again a kind of social enterprise, you are not having experts, such kind of organizational complexities, problems may arise which may be not be easily solved in an or enterprise, fine. New systems required to support the enterprise at cost. Definitely, once your enterprise is in growth stage, right, you require certain new systems, you require certain organizational structure, you require certain technology in order to support the enterprise, right? That will definitely add your cost. So already if you are into a financial, again we can say, dilemma, then this kind of cost also adds. Business skills needed for an enterprise may necessitate hiring new staff, right? Again, if your enterprise is growing and you are not having such kind of capability, you are not having such capacity building, then you need to appoint new staff, right? So for that new staff appointing, again you need to hire more people who are specialized, and their salary, their money, their again incentives are very much high, which are adding to your cost. Hope it's done clear with the operational risk. Next is your cultural risk, students, right? What do you mean by cultural risk? Cultural differences of social programs and enterprise may cause tension, right? Again, we are working at a by and large within the society and for the society, right? So there are various problems related to different cultures, as you know only, right? India is a country, unity in diversity. So whatever cultures are there, different type of cultures may create the tension between the various social programs which you are organizing. It may be related to a particular religion, it may be related to a particular caste, or it may be related to a particular strata of the society, right? So such differences may create a tension between all of them. Staff may leave due to business culture, right? Because you are not, again, we can say, corporation or a company form, right? You are having a certain business culture, or you are having a certain organizational culture in your business. So staff may not be able to settle down. There are chances that may leave because of your business culture. Board and staff may feel sold out, right? Many a times it takes place that there is a management board which you have kept in your enterprise, and staff is also there. Many a times it happens that the entrepreneur who has started the thing, or the promoters of the business, may sell out their stake to the other parties, and they may again leave the business, right? They may exit the business. So there are chances that board and staff may also feel sold out. So there is also a cultural risk and resistance to change, right? Many a times, once you have started with certain beliefs, once you have started with certain, again we can say, values for which you have again had a mission for the society, you change according to it, right? You change according to the changing circumstances. So in that circumstances or the situation, there are chances that you may get resist from the employees, or you can get resistance from the management board also, right? Or the promoters or the investors, right? So resistance to change is also one of the risk which you are having in a social enterprise. And the last is, students, the mission related risk, right? Any social enterprise is based upon the mission and the vision with which it started. So mission and reputation could be compromised if the venture is seen as sellout by the stakeholders, right? Many a times it takes place that if they are getting more profit, or if they are getting more return or lucrative, we can say, schemes, many a times the promoters and the stakeholders sell out their venture. Suppose I am an angel investor, I have invested in your social enterprise. If someone is giving me higher price, I may change my mind and I may sell out my enterprise, right? So again, the new enterprise or the new investor which comes in the business, right, may change the mission and the reputation of the business. Organization has difficulty balancing the mission and the money, causing mission drift from core social activities to business, right? Definitely it takes place. We saw just now only there are problems of finance. So whatever the thing takes place, many a time situation arises when there is acute scarcity of funds, right? So what do stakeholders or the social entrepreneur do is, the owners do is, they change the mission and they again convert their social enterprise business into a, we can say, core business to earn more profit, right? So that is also mission related risk. Your mission is forgotten and you have started earning profit. Enterprise could have negative impact on the clients, right? Definitely, due to all these activities, there are chances that a social enterprise can have negative impact on the clients, right? If you are in a normal business, then you can get n number of customers, but when you are into a social enterprise, your clients are fixed, they are believing you, they are trusting you. So once such kind of trust is broken, then there is a negative impact on clients, and there are chances that your business may also shut down, right? So I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. No doubts in this part. Fine. So we have completed, students, today the financing of a social enterprise and the risk which are involved in a social enterprise. Right? Fine. So again, in the next lecture we'll be starting with the next part, that is your business growth strategies and startup of a social enterprise. So we conclude today, students. Thank you for the day. This is Professor Shaurya Shah teaching you entrepreneurship development. Have a nice day ahead. Study well, perform well. See you in the next lecture.